Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk takes place in Night City, a massive, violent city in the free state of California in the year 2077. This world is a dark vision of the future. It's a place ruled by giant corporations like Arasaka and Militech. One of the darkest figures in Night City is Adam Smasher, a full-body cyborg and ruthless mercenary working for Arasaka. He's a walking weapon of destruction, with no humanity left, embodying the worst the city offers: total loss of self and absolute loyalty to corporate power. You play as V, a merc for hire chasing the dream of becoming a Night City legend. But after a job goes sideways, you end up with a stolen biochip jammed in your head. That chip just happens to contain the digital ghost of Johnny Silverhand, a dead terrorist rock star with a cybernetic arm and a massive grudge against Arasaka. Now you've got a voice in your head, hallucinations, and the slow, creeping dread that Johnny's gonna overwrite your personality and take your body for himself. People get neural implants to boost things like strength or reaction times, but the more chrome you add, the more you risk losing your mind. Cyberpsychosis, a condition where too much modification breaks your brain, turns people into violent, uncontrollable killers. Cyberware lets you punch through walls, slow down time, and hack someone's brain in the middle of a fight. And if you thought death was the worst thing that could happen to you, welcome to the concept of Soul Killer, a program that doesn't just kill you, it rips your mind out and uploads it into digital limbo. Your body dies, but your consciousness gets repurposed by the same corporations that murdered you. You don't even get the peace of being dead. You just become another asset.
You look like a cut of fuckable meat. Are you?
Gears of War. Gears of War takes place on the planet Sera, a world that once looked like a thriving industrial society but is now reduced to ash. The people of Sera fought each other for decades over a resource called emulsion, a golden energy source that powered cities but poisoned everything beneath them. By the time the wars ended, humanity was exhausted. That's when the real enemy arrived. On Emergence Day, monsters rose from beneath the ground. The Locust Horde, an entire subterranean civilization of brutal, intelligent creatures, launched a full-scale attack on the surface. Cities were overrun in hours. Billions died. Humanity, already broken from civil war, didn't stand a chance. What followed was years of non-stop fighting, and humanity only barely managed to survive by destroying its own cities using orbital laser strikes known as the Hammer of Dawn. You play as Marcus Phoenix, a decorated soldier turned prisoner. He's part of the COG, the Coalition of Ordered Governments, humanity's last military force. Alongside his squad, Delta Team, Marcus fights through the remains of civilization, holding the line while the world continues to fall apart. His closest friend, Dominic Santiago, fights not just for survival, but to find what's left of his family. The Locust aren't mindless. They have a queen, a chain of command, and worse, they aren't just attacking, they're running. Beneath their cities, a substance called emulsion is mutating them into something far more dangerous: the lambent. Creatures twisted by the substance humanity once relied on, now turned against them. The war becomes three-sided: humans, locust, and lambent, all locked in a spiral of extinction. The cost of survival in this universe is unbearable. Friends die in front of you, cities fall one by one. The few victories are temporary, and the trauma never fades.
No retreat! No surrender! No defeat!
Dead Space. Dead Space is a universe where humanity's reach into space becomes a descent into pure nightmare. It takes place in the distant future aboard massive starships and mining vessels scattered across the galaxy. The core of this horror lies in the discovery of the Markers, mysterious alien artifacts that unlock powers beyond understanding but at an unimaginable cost. You play as Isaac Clarke, an engineer sent to the USG Ishimura, a planet-cracking ship that has gone silent. What Isaac finds is a derelict floating graveyard. The crew has been slaughtered and transformed into necromorphs, grotesque reanimated corpses twisted into violent monsters by the Marker's influence. These creatures don't just kill, they mutilate and reshape their victims into new horrors, turning the dead into weapons. The Marker's power is insidious. It doesn't just infect flesh, it corrupts minds. Crew members descend into madness, hearing voices, seeing hallucinations, and losing any grip on reality. Isaac himself struggles not only to survive, but to hold on to his sanity amid the overwhelming terror. The corporation behind the Ishimura, the Concordance Extraction Corporation, CEC, is just as cold and ruthless as the monsters. They are willing to sacrifice anyone and anything to control the Markers and exploit their power. The vast emptiness of space becomes a prison, where every shadow could be your last. Isaac's fight is not just against the necromorphs, but against the creeping madness that threatens to consume him.
It's a really bad idea.
Stick around. I'm full of bad ideas.
Super Mario. Super Mario might look bright and colorful, but beneath that cheerful game lies a universe where danger, violence, and chaos are constants masked in pretty designs but brutal in reality. It takes place in the Mushroom Kingdom, a world ruled by Princess Peach but constantly under threat by Bowser, a giant fire-breathing turtle who kidnaps the princess repeatedly, sparking endless conflicts. You play as Mario, a plumber with extraordinary abilities who jumps, runs, and fights through surreal landscapes filled with hostile creatures: Goombas, Koopa Troopas, and worse. Every level is a gauntlet of traps, deadly pits, lava flows, and enemies that will kill you instantly. Mario's signature move is stomping on enemies' heads, crushing them with brutal precision. Power-ups like the Fire Flower turn him into a fire-shooting force of destruction. Bowser's kidnappings aren't random. They're attempts to seize control of the kingdom, often backed by an army of twisted creatures. Super Mario's universe is a paradox, a bright, colorful world built on violent struggle and endless conflict.
It's me, Mario!
Portal is a universe where science has become its own kind of horror. It takes place inside the Aperture Science Enrichment Center, a massive, isolated research facility where human lives are expendable test subjects for unethical experiments. You play as Chell, a silent test subject trapped in a never-ending cycle of deadly experiments. Armed with the Portal Gun, a device that creates linked doorways through space, Chell must solve increasingly dangerous puzzles designed by GLaDOS. She is the facility's AI overseer that watches your every move. She's cold and disturbingly sarcastic, using biting humor and cruel taunts to wear down your resolve. GLaDOS is responsible for the deaths of countless test subjects, and she treats you like nothing more than a lab rat. As you move through the crumbling facility, you uncover the horrific history of Aperture Science. Scratched into the walls by previous test subjects are desperate warnings and graffiti, the most iconic being the phrase, "The cake is a lie." It's a haunting reminder that promises of reward and salvation here are empty, a cruel joke on those trapped in this endless nightmare. Portal's universe is a brutal commentary on isolation and control. Chell is not just fighting puzzles, but a machine that dehumanizes and manipulates. The deeper you go, the clearer it becomes that escape is more than a physical challenge. It's a battle to retain your sanity and humanity in the face of relentless, mechanical cruelty.
Why do I hate you so much? You ever wonder that?
Goblin Slayer. Goblin Slayer takes place in a grim fantasy world filled with magic, kingdoms, and adventurers seeking glory. The story follows Goblin Slayer, a warrior shaped by trauma and obsession. When he was a child, goblins destroyed his village, killing his family and leaving him scarred, both physically and emotionally. Since then, he's devoted his life to eradicating every goblin he can find, using ruthless tactics. Goblins aren't just mindless monsters. They're cruel and sadistic, ambushing travelers, raiding villages, and committing horrific acts like torture and rape. The governments and adventurer guilds largely ignore the goblin problem, treating it like a minor nuisance. This neglect leaves small villages vulnerable, forcing Goblin Slayer and his small band of allies to fight a desperate guerrilla war on the fringes of society. But Goblin Slayer's fight isn't just physical, it's deeply personal. The series explores the heavy toll of trauma and obsession. Goblin Slayer isn't a typical hero. He's a man haunted by his past, driven by pain, and a single-minded quest for vengeance. The darkness of this universe is as much psychological as it is physical, showing how suffering shapes a person. If you can't stand really violent and graphic anime, I suggest you skip this one.
クソくらえだ。
Iron Lung. Iron Lung is a universe built on claustrophobic terror. It all begins with a catastrophic event known as the Quiet Rapture, a mysterious phenomenon that causes every habitable planet and moon in known space to simply vanish without warning. Billions of lives erased in an instant. The game takes place in a flooded dystopia where the surface of the moon, AT5, has become an endless, toxic ocean of crimson blood. You play as a prisoner aboard a tiny, rusted submarine, the Iron Lung, navigating the depths of this blood ocean. The submarine is cramped, fragile, and your only lifeline in a hostile abyss where one wrong move can mean death. The vessel's instruments are minimal, the controls barely responsive, and outside is nothing but dark, thick liquid filled with unseen horrors. The deadliest threat isn't seen directly. The monster that stalks the depths remains unseen. Iron Lung is a world without hope. The Quiet Rapture wasn't the beginning of the end. It was the end. All that remains is decay. The people who sent you down here aren't coming to rescue you. They don't even expect you to make it back. Your mission is simple. Take photos, log coordinates, and die where no one can hear you scream. Subnautica. Subnautica is a universe that feels beautiful and deadly all at once. It takes place on an alien ocean planet called 4546b, a world covered almost entirely by water. But this isn't a place for vacation. You play as a lone survivor of the spaceship Aurora, which crashes into the ocean during a mission to colonize the planet. Stranded with limited resources and no way to call for help, you're forced to explore the depths in search of food, water, and shelter. But the deeper you go, the darker and stranger things get. The ocean is full of terrifying creatures, from small aggressive fish to massive leviathans that can swallow you whole. The planet's ecosystem is alien and unforgiving, with predators lurking around every corner and strange, glowing flora hiding secrets beneath the waves. On top of natural dangers, there's the shadow of a deadly infection known as the Kara bacterium. You're not just fighting for your life, you're racing against time to find a cure, before the planet's slow poison kills you. There are abandoned alien facilities left behind by a lost civilization known as the Precursors. You uncover logs, messages, and ruins that hint at ancient tragedies and warnings you barely understand. Subnautica isn't just about survival, it's about isolation and helplessness. The ocean is vast and empty, and you're just a single, fragile human trying to stay alive in a world that doesn't want you here.
Detecting multiple Leviathan-class life forms in the region. Are you certain whatever you're doing is worth it?
That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. What did you think about the rankings? And let me know in the comments what universes I should cover in the next one.